Quicksand usually consists of sand or clay and saturated salt and is most often found in river deltas. Their surface looks solid, but as soon as a human foot steps on it, the sand begins to liquefy. Then the water and sand separate, forming a compacted layer of wet sand, in which it is easy to get stuck. The friction between the grains of sand is greatly reduced, and they can no longer support the weight of a person, so that he really begins to get bogged down. But if, according to the laws of physics, the body cannot endlessly sink deeper and deeper into the sand, why do people tragically die from time to time in quicksand? The reason is that although quicksand does not suck a person with his head, if he does not free himself in time, he can be covered by a tidal wave. In this case, quicksand can really be dangerous. Tårnågen Fjord is an interesting place in Alaska. This huge fjord consists entirely of quicksand. The quicksand of Alaska is the most terrible and treacherous. Once glaciers turned local rocks into sand, and streams of water washed it into the Tårnågen Fjord. This formed sand deposits up to several meters thick. The low tide exposes this sandbank, but twice a day, as soon as the tide starts, all the sand turns into thick slush, and the channel is filled with icy water. In just 6 hours, the water rises by 12 meters. To this day, the locals tell a story about a young married couple who took a romantic car ride at low tide. The car, along with the passengers, was pulled into quicksand. The man managed to miraculously escape, and the woman remained forever buried in the sand. The main part of the legends appeared in the UK, where there were quite a lot of dangerous areas of sucking animals and people on the seacoasts. Arnside. This town is located in the northwest of England. At low tide, the sea recedes here by as much as 11 kilometers. A long time ago, at low tide, fishermen went to the bay on horse-drawn carts in order to have time to bring their catch before the next high tide. So they managed to get a lot more fish, but many of the fishermen remained at the mercy of quicksand forever. It is very difficult to get out of the sandpit on your own. Due to the frequent accidents in Arnside, a rescue service was created, which annually pulls up to 30 people out of quicksand. There is a known case when sand almost completely sucked a 4-year-old boy in front of his parents. Fortunately, help arrived in time. Rescuers use special portable decking, which can be used to reach the victims. It is impossible to even roughly calculate the number of victims from quicksand. It exceeds rather tens of thousands of people. Once, deadly sand destroyed the entire area of the city in Jamaica, then more than 2,000 people died, because the city was densely populated. Also, there is a place where sand absorbed ships. And in the same England, Cape South Foreland is widely known as the ship graveyard. The steamer, whose cargo was estimated at $3 million, broke in half. The rescuers tried to do something for 5 days, but everything was in vain. Underestimate the sand is not worth it, because at the same place, in 1954, a huge lighthouse completely went underground. In 1692, in Jamaica, the entire area of the city of Port Royal went into the sand. According to average estimates, more than 2,000 people died then. The place for the construction of the city was chosen on a long sand spit, the upper layer of which is still soaked with water. A mixture of gravel and sand lies under the water layer. On June 7, 1692, during an earthquake, sand began to suck in buildings and people. The whole horror lasted about 10 minutes, after which the liquid-like sand mass suddenly became hard as cement and tightly squeezed people. Most of the townspeople died, and their protruding body parts were eaten by wild dogs. In the 19th century, the remains of houses were still visible on the site of the area destroyed by the earthquake. However, in 1907, a second earthquake occurred, hiding these traces of the tragedy. There are legends that on the site of the area that once existed in the port, the screams of people who died in the sands can still be heard.